Okay, it is 9:50 a.m. Right now, DPLS is having a little bit of a desperate attempt when they make a really wide spread to get at the uptrend. As you can see, before it was in the 67 range at the ask, so people were getting their shares, executed above VWAP. I guess the people who are blind or trading market orders, but this can totally continue and actually do a turnaround, and the bid will lift up eventually. Not the best way to make a stock turnaround, but it happens. It can totally work. I tried it for a morning panic bounce play, and I did get out of the trade because I didn't like the price action, and I'm glad because, I just listened to my gut. The price action didn't look nice. If I were to have held for whatever reason, which wouldn't make sense to me, it would have been pretty bad. I was in at 937 right here. So we had a morning panic bounce play. I saw it just pierce through the trend line just a little bit. Sure, if I was a big baller, I would have been in at 66 flat. But I just wanted a little bit of a confirmation, so I waited for it to do a drop. It did turn around when it broke the trend line, and then when it came back near the level, a little risky because it might, be a point where you think is going to come back here and you're in, but then it drops even closer to the level. But I was in at 937, and that was again right here at 667. That was my entry right at the bottom of the green candle, and I was in it for a little bit, but I didn't like the price action. It just looked like some topping price action. It didn't look good, so I got out at 938 right here at 67. So I barely made a profit. I didn't really make that much, just a small difference, but I didn't lose money. And I think that's the best part because DPLS, I remember it. If it breaks the day low, it has a pretty big panic. As you can see, this candle just took it all the way down and it continued to downtrend. It did eventually break around this trend line, but it looks nice now the way it broke the trend line, but I think it moved because when I had it, it looked a lot different, but it did turn around. It's trying to turn around. It's one of those where you might not be that profitable even if it turns around like this because most of the uptrending price action is just people hitting the ask, and the bid doesn't really catch up with the ask, but it's trying to do it here, which is pretty good. I had no interest in KG. Sure, it could turn around, but it's not ideal. IOUS, I had an interest if maybe it would break 13 and go green on the day, but it didn't do that. TGGI is nothing interesting. CYBL is nothing interesting, although I guess since it's up on the day, then it is trying to, in theory, be like a higher low here off of here, maybe. If it breaks the day high or something like that, if it breaks 14. There's a big seller at 14.3. If it does some kind of a breakout, maybe that could be interesting, but, that's a very speculative idea. That's about it. I'll keep looking at DPLS to see what it does, just to learn from the price action, but I'm glad I had one trade and I got out of it when I felt like it wasn't doing it right. It was on the ultimate bottom. I'm asking myself, why did I miss it here? But the way it traded was just kind of weird. I'll keep watching this. Okay. I had a really speculative trade. Let's see if 647 gets hit. It is breaking above 64, but this was such a speculative setup that I only traded 500 shares just to say I traded it, really. So in theory, this could be like a cup and handle. This is a cup, and now it's making a handle, and the goal will be VWAP at 66, but it looks very nice now. But when I got it wasn't that nice. 64 was at the ask, and 635 was at the bid. There was a lot of people, and they're still kind of there at 63 supporting it, and the idea is that I'm going to be long this setup, and if it breaks this 633 person, I'll try to get out at 63 flats, and it's just going to be a tiny position of 500 shares, and I hit the ask, which was 64. Again, the bid was 635, and a lot of people supporting it at 63. And why did I get in the trade besides maybe the cup and handle? Well, 100k seller, not seller, 100k bidder showed up at 635, and that made it look really nice, like it could uptrend, or at least if it's going to not work, people are going to be dumping their shares into 635, and that will give me, like some time to recognize the change in the setup and that maybe it's more likely not going to work. And what happened is that 100k seller then showed up when 64, no, I think it was still 635. And then 64 looks like it was about to break. And then a new person showed up at like 6.4 again with 100K like shares. So I thought, okay, maybe this was like a trap where it looks like it's gonna work out, right? But then a big seller shows up, and now you're like, oh, well, this looks bad. And then the person at 635 disappeared. So then I thought, okay, this is not looking good. Let me go ahead and get out if it's possible. And I did. I got out at the same price, 64, but as you saw when I was recording, it looks like it was actually trying to uptrend, and now it's actually failing. So that's actually really interesting. I mean, of all the patterns, like the basic patterns you learn for day trading, cup and handle seem to work the least. My favorite one is head and shoulders and inverse head and shoulders. Yeah, this one didn't do it. I mean, it could still turn around, but not at the level I would have traded it off of. Again, just 500 shares, so it's not like I was going to make anything, but that was a break-even trade with DPLS. And there's nothing else that I'm really interested in right now, but I'll make an update later. Okay, it is 10:23, and I want to see what this one can do, but it essentially hit the goal of at least getting near VWAP. It didn't necessarily touch VWAP, but if it got really close to it, I'll consider that as reaching VWAP. And I think I wasn't sized in enough in this trade, but this was ultimately, the morning panic bounce play, and then it was a cup and handle that I considered here, and then it sold off, right? It would have been nice. I could have considered it when it broke under 60, and it briefly went to the 59 level, but there was so many people supporting it that it didn't look like it was going to break under, and I could have considered that, but it only got to 6.1. At the top was 62. And you see how it kind of just played off with the 60 level, it broke under, and then it just like stopped right at 62 and it went back down. The reason why it didn't break 62 was because on the level 2 there was like a 350K seller at 62, and at one point it was like 420,000 share seller at 62. And that is the main reason why I wasn't really interested in it when it was looking like maybe it could continue the uptrend from here instead of just curved around it. However, I was in at 1018, and that was because a big bidder showed up. And on top of that, when I was looking at the level 2, it didn't show that big 400, 350K seller at 62 anymore, as if that person disappeared, which was nice, which means maybe there isn't going to be a wall to fight into now. Maybe if we were to have uptrended and gotten closer to 62 and the big seller shows up again, that would be pretty bad. But people were jumping in at the bid, and I was in again at 1018, right here, 1018, and I was in at 612, right here, 612, right here at 1018, and it immediately started to work. It did, and I could have still have held this one, but this one was sketchy in the way that it was uptrending for a lot of this. It kind of shows it right here, but you can see it got as high as 639, but the bid was like at 618. Like the entire uptrend here, the bid was like 618, 619, and the ask was like lifting off. It was starting the uptrend with a wide spread like it did right here very similarly, although this was a bit better. And I did get out at 1021 at 625 right here, right at the top of, near the top of this candle, if not the top of this candle at 1021. It did get to VWAP, which would have been the goal, and this thing can continue the uptrend. I just didn't like how the thing was doing it again, and that it was uptrending, but the bid was like at the same level. Like for example, let's say the bid was 61, and then at the ask is 629, so it was uptrending, but again the bid wasn't catching up with the ask. So I had that into consideration. I know I made money on this one, but probably not enough considering the size that I traded. But yeah, definitely, yeah, probably was severely undersized. I'll see what my dollar risk level ultimately ended up being, but I was gonna cut it if it were to have when I was in the setup immediately, if it were to have came back to this 60 level and it looks like it's going to break under it, I would consider getting out. But a little afterwards, when it looked like it was trying to do something and trying to work, I considered getting out if it was going to break the 61 level, because there was a lot of people that were starting to stack up at the bid. I guess this might be the same person. There was like multiple people that jumped in at 61, so I'll make an update to see what it does. It looks like the spread is a lot closer now, which is more ideal. We'll see what this one can do, if it can get past VWAP at some point. Okay, it is 12:27 a.m., not p.m., and I am here to call it off. Overall, I'm up just $4.75. I should have been up about double what I'm up today if I was sizing appropriately on DPLS, the second trade that I took. Jeez, I think it was this one way back here. Yeah, it was this one. And this one wasn't too bad. I had my sell at 625, and the way uptrended was kind of iffy, but that was a setup there, and that was a day today in that I didn't actually profit from the morning panic bounce play, because I tried here and it wasn't successful, and I did make a little there, but again it was a scratch. And this one did work out, but I was not full sized, and this one I was not a part of. This was the main move, honestly, from the 62 level to the 66 level, which would have been nice. I was considering it. I do regret a little not trying the inverse head and shoulders here, even though it didn't really work that well. It went from what, 624 to 639. That would have been hard because that would have been a sell at the ask. It did eventually do like an inverse head and shoulders in theory, shoulder head, and it didn't work out here, but it eventually played off of the level and made that move from the 624 level to the 659, which would have been nice, but it was later in the day. As for KG, nothing. LMV, nothing. TGGI, nothing. ILUS. I was going for that breakout over 13. It did do it, but the way it did it was kind of inconsistent. The volume wasn't there, so it wasn't really much of a setup. I do regret just a little bit not like trying other setups, like listed stock setups. I feel like I should try trading larger size in general, but I'm just gonna take it easy in the meantime. But have that in mind to build upon. And perhaps on this one with DPLS, I traded in theory a $10 risk level here. Maybe I should have traded something larger, but not really, because this one in particular trades with a bit of a spread. But I do have to keep that in mind, that if a morning panic bounce play looks clean on a certain OTC stock, like really nice, I need to remember it's not just a $10 risk level. I can trade a $20 or a $30 risk level in that case. And I'm not sure if I went over it. I think I did. It did end up making a nice turnaround here. It actually worked, but it was just weird the way it got there. And I did try it previously the other day, if not the day before that. And yeah, it just, it was weird the other time I traded, but it did actually offer a move there. So yeah, that's really about it for today. I just should have been, sized correctly on the third trade with DPLS. I don't mind the second one being only 500 shares, because it was just a proof of concept. It wasn't really to, make anything. And yeah, I definitely need to be trading the right size, because if I trade a size that's too small and then I'm profitable, well then I'm scared to consider trading the appropriate size on the other setups, because maybe those setups aren't going to work out and then I'm going to be red on the day. So I have to make sure I'm sizing appropriately. That's really all I have for today, and maybe try being more aggressive on listed setups.